you guys, Arien here, back with another moon update for you, although we are definitely going to go deeper than just this new moon we've got coming up here, because as I've been saying for a long time, this month of March is very exciting. There's a lot of shifts going on, and we actually have a really exciting shift coming up here. We have the spring equinox, okay? And directly following the spring equinox is a new moon. Now, pretty much, I think that most Western astrologers would agree that on a yearly basis, the spring equinox is like the most exciting transit, because it's when we have the spring equinox, what's happening here is we are at the end, like right now, we're in the very end of Pisces season. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it's a lovely, mystical, spiritual energy, very dreamy. It's very much in touch with like the spirit realm. But it's also tired. It's at the end of winter. It's the end of the zodiac. When we spring into action, when we have the spring equinox, we move into the first sign of the zodiac, which is Aries, which is the cardinal fire sign, okay? Aries happens to be one of my favorite signs of the zodiac for that reason. It's all about energy, okay? So we're having this spring equinox, and literally, I think it's like 20 hours after the spring equinox, we have a new moon in the sign of Aries. And not only that, but the new moon is at 0 degrees Aries. Now, if you've been watching my recordings for a while, you probably see me get excited about 0 degrees, because it's like the purest, most powerful form of that particular zodiacal influence. Once we get past 2.5 degrees, things start to blend in with other zodiac signs. But really, and so if it's before 2.5 degrees, is a very pure form of that energy. But if it's at 0 degrees, it's the purest form of Aries energy we could get. And as with any new moon, this is a time for new beginnings. This is a time to set our intentions for growth that we want to experience that's related to the sign that the new moon is transiting through. And Aries is the sign of self. Okay, so this is a time to manifest new beginnings and growth that you want to experience for yourself. Now, it's important to keep in mind, of course, we all experience this new moon at 0 degrees Aries on March 21st. However, it's also very unique to each and every one of us. So much of this depends on your own natal chart. Now, if you know approximately what time you were born, you can go to so many different websites and have your natal chart calculated for free. And all you got to do is look to see which house in your natal chart the sign of Aries is coming through. If you're using Placidus, you need to see exactly where 0 degrees is coming through. And personally, I love Placidus, but I also, especially for these new moon transits, I really like working with the whole sign house system, especially if you're a beginner. It's a little bit easier to understand. And when I'm talking about the houses, which area of your life, I'm talking about the things that look like a little slice of pie. You want to look for the symbol of Aries and see which number of house your natal chart has the sign of Aries coming through. It could be coming through your house of communication, your house of career, your house of money. If you're an Aries rising, this is coming through your first house, your house of self. So this is even more significant for you. It could be coming through your house of relationships. There's all these different areas of your life that this new moon could be coming through. Now, when you get a reading with me, you get the video recording, and you can always go back to that recording and see which area of your life, any of these new moons, full moons, anything astrological is manifesting for you specifically. Now, if you don't know what time you were born, that's okay. We could still do all kinds of fancy stuff and figure out how this is really specifically manifesting for you in your own life. Do you have anything in your natal chart, like Mercury or Mars or Venus or the moon or anything like that, that's at near 0 degrees Aries, or maybe opposite that at near 0 degrees Libra, or maybe scoring that 0 degrees Cancer or Capricorn, or maybe trining that at 0 degrees Sagittarius or Leo? There's all these really fun things we can do and apply this to your own life. Okay, but regardless, I can understand that could be kind of intimidating for some people. That's perfectly okay. We just take a step back and focus on this new moon in Aries. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this recording is I'm going to break down the sign of Aries for you, so you know what you're working with. I'm also going to be talking about parts of the body that are ruled by the sign of Aries. Okay, because these parts of our body become more sensitive when the moon transits through the sign of Aries, but especially when it's a new or a full moon. And I'm also going to be talking about some herbs that we can potentially support these parts of our body with when the moon is transiting through the sign of Aries. And I'm also going to be talking about gemstones that resonate well with the sign of Aries, but not just that. I'm also going to be talking about gemstones that really are, in my opinion, a good idea to keep around us, or at least on our journal. Because as you guys know, if you've been watching my recordings for a while, every time we have a new moon, I pull out my journal, I write down what I'm trying to manifest. How do I want to grow in the ways that are related to the sign that the moon is transiting through? And of course, I know how to apply that to my own chart and see which house it's manifesting through and get real finely tuned here. But then I take the gemstones that really are going to be resonating well with the energies we're receiving from the heavens. I put those gemstones on top of my journal. Okay, so that's the way I like to work. And I wouldn't be doing this for, I think it's been 7 years now I've been doing this. I wouldn't continue to do it if I didn't see it actually, bringing results into my life. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the gemstones that resonate well, and I'm also going to pull up the chart, and I'm going to show you some other very prominent astrological forces that we are currently receiving. But as usual, I'll try not to make this too long because I know, everybody's got busy lives. So I just try to get out what I find to be the most important information for you guys to understand. Okay, so Aries. Aries is what we call the cardinal fire sign. Okay, when I'm talking about cardinal energy, I'm talking about force. In fact, all the cardinal signs, they are really when we're shifting seasons, going into a brand new season. And when that happens, it provides a certain kind of force to project us forward. And then we take into consideration that this is a fire sign. All the fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, they're all very much associated with energy, but especially Aries. Aries is like the sign of energy. In fact, something to be mindful of, I'll just say this now. Aries rules the head, amongst many other things, but Aries rules the head, and a lot of people say their sun in Aries and they don't have much earth in their chart. They can overexert themselves because the energy is going straight out through the top of their head. So that's something to be mindful of. Aries is, well, it's the ram. Okay. It's associated with the ram that wants to climb to great heights. Okay. And not only that, but rams can be aggressive. The sign of Aries can definitely come with some aggression. It's ruled by Mars. Okay. You may have heard Mars being referred to as the planet of war. Well, Aries is ruled by Mars. Aries is like the warrior of the zodiac. Okay. So this energy definitely comes with a strong amount of force, a strong amount of courage, a strong amount of ambition to go after what it wants to. It's the warrior. Okay, now we might want to be a little mindful. Don't, again, overexert yourself. We're receiving a ton of Aries energy at the time of this new moon. Again, of course, it's going to be impacting us all very uniquely, but that's just something to be a little mindful of. But overall, since we have the spring equinox on March 20th, okay, the sun moves into the sign. It goes from Pisces into Aries. So that's the zodiacal new year. Okay, Pisces is the end, Aries is the beginning. So March 20th, we have that spring equinox to spring into action. Then something like 20 hours later, we have the new moon in Aries. Okay, so it's the ultimate time to manifest how you want to grow in these ways of a warrior. I think a lot of people are, it's the end of winter and people are a little tired, that sort of thing. Now it's a time to move forward. Okay, so let's see here. I think, what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and pull up the chart and show you some things that are going on for this new moon in Aries. All right, so for those of you who are new to my recordings, what I work with is geocentric Western astrology. So with that said, we put Earth right here in the middle. These guys right here are the symbols for the celestial bodies. Like here's Neptune, here's the moon, here's the sun, here's Mercury. And when we go in the wheel a little ways, these are the symbols for the zodiac signs that all these things are going to be beaming through onto Earth at the time of this new moon. Now, for those of you who are a little more advanced, don't pay any attention to what house these things are coming through, unless you live somewhere near Santa Cruz, California, because here's the moon, here's the sun. All right, they could be, there's all going to be in the sign for everybody. It's all going to be at 0 degrees Aries, but depending on your location, they could be in other locations of the chart, still in the sign of Aries, just maybe in a different part of the circle. Okay, so let's start with the sun and the moon. Anytime we have a new moon, the sun and the moon are in the exact same spot. Okay, so we see them at 0 degrees Aries. 0 degrees. This is so powerful. This is so, it's such the energy to move forward, project forward with this Aries energy. I can't say that enough. It's really exciting. And don't be thinking, by the way, don't be thinking that like all of a sudden on March 21st or March 22nd, all of a sudden everybody's just going to have all this great energy going on. Because again, so much of this depends on our own natal chart. But when we want to work with the energies we're receiving from the heavens, this is the time to manifest that. Okay. Now, also, you can see we've got quite a bit of Aries energy going on. So here is Mercury. Now, Mercury has so much to do with our mental function. He is the messenger of the gods. Okay. Mercury is how we receive information into our mind. Mercury's got to file that information away somewhere. And then we want to communicate that information. Mercury's got to go find that file and bring it back out so we can communicate it. So going through the sign of Aries, Mercury's pretty hot. Okay. Mercury's neurons are connecting at kind of a rapid pace. Okay. They're kind of almost aggressive energy. Again, this could be potential for hothead energy, again, depending on your own natal chart. But something else I love here, this right here is Chiron, which we've talked a lot about Chiron going through the sign of Aries. Again, Aries is the sign of self. Okay. Chiron is, to put this in very general terms, Chiron is the wounded healer. It has so much to do with wounds that we experience from early childhood. And as we go throughout life, we're provided with certain opportunities to heal from those wounds. Chiron going through Aries, this is a time for self-healing. Okay, this is such, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing people do it all over the place. They're taking time to heal themselves. Now, moving forward, this right here is Jupiter, also going through Aries, which really anything Jupiter touches, he makes it a bigger deal. Okay, he's the great expander. Okay, Jupiter's wonderful. Jupiter brings abundance and wisdom and philosophy. Jupiter can be troublesome sometimes too, but overall, when we see Jupiter right next to Chiron, it's almost like those healing energies are being expanded. It's like kind of a bigger deal. This is, and again, we could be setting the intentions to heal ourselves, and Jupiter's there to help support that. Okay, so that's all something to keep in mind. Now, let's see, since Mars is Aries ruler, we'll jump on down here and talk about Mars for a minute. So Mars, even just the glyph for Mars, the symbol for Mars, it's meant to look like it is there to penetrate, because that's what Mars does. Mars is aggressive. Mars is masculine, dominant, hot, fiery. Okay. Mars is going through the sign of Gemini, which it has been for almost 8 months. This has been a crazy transit for Mars. Mars usually goes through zodiac sign like 1 to 3 months, but this has been a very long transit for Mars because he did this crazy long retrograde and he's almost done in Gemini. But while Mars is finishing up in there, the reason I'm not excited about this is because, I mean, there's really good things that could come out of Mars in Gemini, especially if you're somebody who's trying to share a message. Gemini is the sign of communication, and Mars going through Gemini can, you know, if you're, say, trying to author a book or something like that, Mars is bringing energy to that area of your, not necessarily to that area of your life, but Mars is bringing energy to communicate. However, Gemini is also the sign of duality. So in Gemini, Mars gets a little frustrated and doesn't necessarily really know which way to go. Like Gemini is the twins, even just the glyph for Gemini, you can see it's the twins. So Mars does get a little frustrated here, but he's almost done. He's moving forward. He's going to be popping out of Cancer soon here. Okay, so for now, let's move on to, let's see, let's go up to Saturn, because Saturn just moved into Pisces. Woo! Okay, so Saturn, this is a very interesting transit. Saturn brings discipline. Saturn brings these like cold blue rays. That's his influence. He brings restrictions, limitations, obstacles, responsibilities, blockages, things that are hard. Okay. But really the ultimate goal of Saturn is to teach you something. He's the great teacher. Okay. He wants to bring wisdom to whatever the sign is that Saturn is transiting through. Saturn also has a lot to do with, like I said, responsibilities, like earthly responsibilities. Okay. And the sign of Pisces is not necessarily so great at the earthly mundane responsibilities. Not to say if you're Pisces, you might be really good at earthly mundane responsibilities because there's so much more to the natal chart. But the sign of Pisces is more about spiritual responsibilities. Pisces is this flowy, mystical, feminine energy that has a lot to do with mysticism. Pisces is said to have 1 foot in the spirit realm and 1 foot in the physical. And here's Saturn trying to bring cold, you know, discipline to that energy. So this is going to be a very interesting 3-year transit with Saturn going through Pisces. I will say this though. All right. Pisces, again, being the mystical one, has, when obviously, hopefully you guys all know that there's a spiritual connection to things like gemstones. Okay. Crystals. There's definitely something spiritual about them, something mystical about those crystals. Saturn actually rules the structure of gemstones, of minerals, of crystals. Okay, Saturn rules the structure of those. And Saturn's very, again, like disciplined and very earthly and practical. I almost kind of feel like this is a really good time over these next 3 years for people to get familiar with crystals. Okay, maybe, you know, some people are really all about working with the spiritual stuff that happens with crystals, but maybe get familiar with the structure of them and understanding how they're all so different from each other. You know, for an example here, like this right here is clear crystal quartz, which is super clear. This can be good for cleansing if you're out in the middle of the forest somewhere. It can be really good for cleansing the vessel. However, it's not necessarily ideal to be holding in front of my computer like this because it's an amplifier. Okay, it like basically when I'm holding this in front of my computer, I am amplifying the dangerous electromagnetic fields. And I don't normally keep this right here, but I thought I'd pull it out for this recording to show you guys. On the other hand, this right here is black tourmaline, which black tourmaline is very, very protective. This is, you know, kind of a good idea to keep this between myself and my computer. I should have brought more crystals over here. Like this right here is tiger's iron. Tiger's iron is another one that's kind of protective. The darker stones tend to be very protective. I'll talk more about crystals towards the end of this, but just getting familiar with them and understanding the actual real structure to them, the practicality to crystals. Hopefully Saturn going through Pisces will bring some of that, but this also could be, I'll just say this could definitely enhance kind of like sensitivities to things that are not so fun, the harshness of the world, Saturn going through Pisces. But again, so much of this depends on your own natal chart. What's going on in your own natal chart? Do you have anything near 1 degree Pisces? You know, maybe your Saturn's in Pisces, you're gonna be having a Saturn return, something like that. Okay, now also this right here is Neptune, which has been going through Pisces for a long time. In fact, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because I've already talked about it so much. Neptune is Pisces ruler. Neptune is what makes Pisces so mystical and flowy. Neptune rules things like altered states of consciousness, but it's such a dreamy energy with Neptune going through Pisces. As I've said so many times, it's like it's making people like kind of fall for charlatan type of energy or just believing things that are not real, okay, and being easily manipulated. Neptune going through Pisces, and I kind of hope Saturn going through Pisces can, you know, kind of create some practicality there. Hopefully, you know, I don't want to go into too much detail because again, so much of this depends on your own natal chart, and I don't want to trigger anybody. Please schedule a reading if you would like to go into further depth about that. Okay, so let's see here. The next thing we will talk about, let's move on over to the North and South node. A lot of you guys know that I love talking about the nodes. This right here is the North node. This right here is the South node. They are like valves, okay? The energy, the celestial tides come in through the North node and go out through the South node. So here we are. This is the sign of Taurus. The North node is bringing the Taurus energy in. Taurus is a sign of money, okay? Also has a lot to do with agricultural systems. Oh, geez, I was just reading something today about like some major bank in the Silicon Valley just has some major debt going on, something like $42 billion were taken out at one time, just something crazy like that. A lot going on that involves money, okay? It's a really good idea because not only do we have the North node going through Taurus, but we've also got Uranus going through Taurus. This is another thing I've talked about for quite some time. Uranus is bringing like abrupt changes to the financial system. And again, also the agricultural systems. But back up on here to the North node going through Taurus, Taurus also has a lot to do with food and consumption. For some people, again, not everyone, certainly not everyone, but for some people, this might potentially be bringing extra, like wanting to eat more. So be mindful of that. What I would be focusing on is this right here is the South node going through Scorpio. So the South node, since energy comes into the North node, it goes out to the South node. And guess what? The sign of Scorpio rules all the parts of the body where things go out, rules the entire excretory system, the colon, all of it, sweat glands. And so with that said, this is in the perfect position to be detoxifying, to be flushing things out. That those nodes have been in those signs since January of 2022, and they're going to be in there till July of this year, 2023. So think about this. Up until July of 2023, it's like the South Node's already trying to take something out of your life. Again, so much of this depends on your own natal chart. If you're a Scorpio, you might have had to let go of something over the last year, or if you haven't yet, then that might be coming up for you. But we can set the intent. What do you want to let go of? What do you want to let go of? What, maybe toxic relationships in your life, or maybe, again, maybe this North Node going through Taurus has made you be consuming things that are not good for the physical body, like processed foods and sugar and refined sugar, especially. But think about this South Node. It's really time to flush that stuff out. And not only that, but this South Node is actually harmonizing, this blue line going right here. It's actually harmonizing with Saturn and Pisces. Saturn's like, be disciplined about it. Be disciplined about it. And not only that, but Saturn is also trining Mars over here. That's an interesting aspect. There's pros and cons to it, but it can bring a little bit of energy. It's basically Saturn is like the structure. Saturn actually rules our bones, where Mars is more like aggression moving forward. Mars rules our muscles. These are the two very masculine energies in their own way, okay? And they are considered the malefics, but they're actually harmonizing through this transit. It's like the two very masculine and malefic energies are actually harmonizing, and in a way that could be really good, but especially since this is harmonizing with the South Node. Let that stuff go, take it out. Okay, now also we've got Venus going through Taurus, which I love this, Venus in Taurus, because Venus, first of all, she rules the sign of Taurus. So that said, she works comfortably there. She's in her own home. She gets to be lovely and romantic and sensual here in the sign of Taurus. Okay, people who are born with Venus and Taurus often can be very, not only just sensual, but like really good hugging energy, and also grounded and that sort of thing, because Venus is the influencer of love. Okay, but also Venus does have an influence on the flow of currency, as in the money. Like Venus actually does have a pretty strong influence on money in and of itself, going through the sign of Taurus. So that's also, I would be looking at this transit between the North Node and Venus and Uranus, all going through the sign of Taurus. I would be looking at this like, okay, what do I want to do with my money? What do I want to do with it? Because invest in something that's actually really valuable, something that's like precious metals or something like that. And don't get me wrong, I really do think that the cryptocurrencies are going to go back up. Digital currencies, in my opinion, are going to go back up. And a lot of that has to do with this Uranus going through Taurus. Can't say exactly for sure when that's going to happen, but I definitely see that happening, especially over the next few years while Uranus finishes up in the sign of Taurus. Okay, so there's that. And then lastly, we will touch on Pluto here going through Capricorn. Pluto is pretty destructive, but Pluto also wants to empower. This is another one I've talked a lot about. So I know the people who are watching all my videos, I don't want to bore you. The people who are new to my videos, I apologize. If you want more in-depth information about any of this stuff, please do schedule an astrology reading. But Pluto has been going through the sign of Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn rules authoritarian establishments. Capricorn rules the structure of our civilization. Okay, and Pluto, for the last 18, 19 years, something like that, has been going through the sign of Capricorn and creating a lot of destruction to the structure of our civilization. And also, here's another thing about Pluto. Pluto is the ruler of the underworld, okay? Pluto goes into the dark forces, but then brings things back up to reveal them. Pluto reveals secrets. We are seeing all kinds of secrets being revealed that are related to our authoritarian establishments, our government, okay? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then please do pay closer attention. I mean, just think about even what's going on in the world, the whole Epstein thing and all of this stuff, these things that are being revealed. And some people just can't see it. It's like they're diluted with this Neptune and Pisces, but it really, things are being revealed. Corruption is being revealed with Pluto finishing up in Capricorn. And what Pluto's going to do is he's going to pop into Aquarius briefly here. That's going to be, probably just a couple days after this new moon. Pluto's going to pop into Aquarius and say hello to the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is really like the sign of humanity. Okay, this is very, very interesting. Aquarius also has a lot to do with things like technology and our electronic devices and that sort of thing. So Pluto is kind of peeking his head into that Aquarius door saying, hey, I'm ready to bring some very, very powerful transformation to humanity, and possibly to, I mean, honestly, it's almost kind of, I'm just going to say it. I don't want to scare anyone. I'm always really careful not to scare anyone. And I'm just going to say this because I just, so nobody is scared. Just think about what humanity has been through, like through thousands of years, what humanity has survived through. You know, we keep getting these apocalypse fears. Oh, it's the end of the world. It's the apocalypse. Everything's, you know, AI is taking over. Very well could. That's what I was going to get into. Pluto going into Aquarius. I do think that's going to maybe not have the greatest effect with the whole AI stuff, because that AI stuff is pretty scary. It is pretty scary. But if we're staying strong, staying grounded, staying focused on our own personal goals, and as long as those goals are not just for your own greatest purpose, but are also good for, you know, the rest of the world, we're going to be okay. Stay strong, stay grounded, keep your feet on the ground, go out into the forest, touch earth, do things like that, so that you're not just wrapped up into, again, the delusions and things that, you know, we're being exposed to. Okay. So that, I hope that makes sense. Well, anyway, okay. So Pluto's going to pop into Aquarius, then retrograde back into Capricorn, and then move back into Aquarius, and then move back into Capricorn. That's going to happen a couple of times over the next year and a half. Really, Pluto's full on in Aquarius in was like the second half of 2024, but that's something to just keep our eyes on Pluto. Okay, so there's that. I think I did everything I wanted to there. Now we're going to be talking about the body parts. So I think I already mentioned this. Aries rules the head, really rules the top of the head, even rules like the upper jaw. And as I mentioned, the sign of Aries, people who have a ton of Aries, not necessarily, if you've got, say, your sun and conjunct Venus in Aries, that might kind of tame some of this. But say if you've got your sun at 1 degree Aries and your Mercury at 22 degrees Aries, there can be a very strong tendency for energy to go literally flying out the top of the head. And this energy can overexert itself. And we, again, everyone's going to be experiencing this uniquely, but we're all receiving this energy where there could be this tendency for us to overexert ourselves or become hotheads. So that's something to be paying attention to. Also, I mean, really, even just the nerves in the brain, the sign of Aries rules. And let's see what else. Aries also rules the adrenal glands. Okay, so, and that has a lot to do with the Martian, the Mars energy going on. So what I will be utilizing for this new moon in Aries, one is wood betony could be really good for nerves in the brain to help kind of calm them down. For the adrenal glands, I really have had some good experiences with borage. Okay, borage can like renew and revive the adrenal glands. By the way, I'm not a doctor, not claiming to be a doctor. You might want to check in with your healthcare practitioner before dabbling into any of these things. There's potential for herbs to, you know, if you're on other, say, pharmaceuticals or something like that, this could mess with those things. So just mentioning, I'm not a doctor. Okay, now also, let's see. Oh, I also wanted to mention Aries can have a very strong tendency for accidents because it's so courageous. It so goes after what it wants. It's like kind of, in some ways, it can be a little vicious, and there can be a tendency for accidents. And so yarrow is actually really good. Well, it is said to help prevent accidents. Okay. And not even necessarily have to be internally taking the yarrow. You can just put a little under your pillowcase or something like that, or just wear a little medicine necklace, something like that. Yarrow is really good for that. Okay, now gemstones. So first of all, this sign of Aries, like the dedicated zodiacal birthstone for the sign of Aries is diamonds. So I got grandma's diamonds on. Thank you so much, grandma. Something I inherited, very special to me. But obviously not everybody has diamonds. We don't have to have diamonds. In fact, diamonds are very interesting. They're very, very powerful stones. And not only are they very much associated with the sign of Aries, but they're also Venetian, as in they are Venus's stone. Okay. In that, it's, if we think about it this way, diamonds, just like the clear crystal quartz, are amplifiers. The diamonds can kind of make things a bigger deal. Diamonds might not be the best stone for everybody to be wearing it. A lot of that depends on your own natal chart. Again, please schedule a reading if you want to know more about that. But the Venetian energy, It's like, basically, if you're somebody who's already really riled up and aggressive and, you know, kind of in a situation where you are already overstimulated, diamonds might not be the best stone for you. Okay. So that's something to consider. But if you're already having like a lovely time, and diamonds can help amplify that, just like a clear crystal quartz can. Okay. But also red coral, this right here is red coral, which red coral is Mars stone. Okay. And so red coral is another one. If you're somebody who's down and out and doesn't have enough energy going on, the red coral, just like when you put somebody in a red room, it's going to kind of amp up the adrenals. Red coral can do the same thing. So if you're looking for that kind of energy, red coral, and not only that, but red coral is very affordable. Be careful though, because there is fake versions of it. Okay. Now the next one I was going to mention, this right here is kyanite, blue kyanite, which also really resonates well with the sign of Aries. Okay. But it's also super protective, a very protective stone to protect unwanted energies from our vessel. But it's also like a light blue color, which can be, you know, a little bit soothing, a little bit bring things down. In fact, blue is really like Saturn's color. Okay. Red is Mars color. When we want to, you got to be very, very careful about this. We're getting into medical astrology here. Please schedule a reading if you want to know more about this. But the blue can kind of bring some of the over exerted Martian energy down. Okay. But it can also constrict things. So you need to be a little careful with that. But overall, again, that's why I take these stones and I put them on top of my journal rather than wearing them on my body. I mean, obviously I know which stones are good for my vessel and which ones aren't, but if you don't know for sure, put them on your journal so that the stones are resonating with the heavens. The words that you wrote, the spells that you're casting, they're resonating with the heavenly energies. Okay. Now, another one I was going to mention, this is not necessarily an Aries stone. This is a malachite, which is like a kind of pretty much anybody could get away with wearing malachite. Malachite is a very protective stone. It's a very soothing stone. That green can also kind of calm things down a little bit. This is a little bit more of like a mercurial color, but malachite is a really good stone, especially if you don't know for sure what to work with. Okay, so there's that. I think I covered everything. Okay, so if you would like to schedule an astrology reading, please go to arienwageastrology.com. Now, if you are on a phone or a device, look for the 3 little bars at the top of my website. There, that is a menu bar. And when you click there, it will say book online. And then my calendar will pop up and you can schedule straight through my website. If you're on a computer, it already just says book online. So I do get questions sometimes, you know, how to schedule through my website. And sometimes I have a tendency to miss emails, and I apologize if you have sent me an email and I have not seen it. I just get tired of looking at these devices sometimes. And so sometimes I need a break. But if you schedule through my website, I will never miss a reading. I literally get notified on every single device I own, and it's in my calendar. So we're all good if you schedule through my website. Okay, I do hope to hear from some of you. And until next time, namaste to all of you.